Hello everyone! We are going through the Bible to find the importance of Christmas. Today's block has a coat of many colors, which reminds us of the story of Joseph. Now Abraham, who we talked about, had a son named Isaac, and Isaac had a son named Jacob, and then Jacob had 12 sons, but his favorite was Joseph. Now you might think it's a bad idea to have a favorite son, and you'd be right. Jacob treated Joseph better than his brothers. Jacob gave Joseph a robe or a coat of many beautiful colors, and it made Joseph feel special, but it made his brothers jealous and angry. On top of that, God had given Joseph special dreams about how he would one day be in charge. This made Joseph's brothers even more jealous, and they started to hate Joseph. So, one day they decided to put an end to Joseph and his dreams and his special coat. Joseph's brothers attacked him. They tore off his coat, they sold him as a slave, and then lied to their father, telling him that Joseph was dead. Meanwhile, Joseph was taken all the way to Egypt where he was a slave. But it got worse. Joseph was then blamed for something that he didn't do, and he ended up in prison. And then it got even worse. God used a dream to tell Joseph that one of his fellow prisoners was about to be freed. But as soon as he was free, he forgot all about Joseph. And for years, Joseph sat in prison. But he wasn't alone because God was still with him, and God still had a plan. In fact, God was going to use Joseph to save his family. God gave the king of Egypt a confusing and scary dream. One of his servants was the man who had been in prison with Joseph and suddenly remembered Joseph and how he could tell the meaning of dreams. Joseph was then able to explain the dream to the king. There would be a famine, and people would not have enough food. And the king then put Joseph in charge of gathering and storing food so the people would have enough to eat during the famine. The famine was so bad that back home, Joseph's brothers were starving. So they traveled to Egypt to buy food. And they knelt down before Joseph, and they didn't even recognize him. Joseph couldn't help from crying. He was so happy to see them. Joseph told them that he was his brother, and they got nervous because they remembered how they had treated him. But Joseph told them that they didn't have to be afraid, because even though his brothers hurt him, God had plans for him. God was with him the whole time and used his circumstances to help save his family. Joseph and his brothers rejoiced because God had saved them. Together they moved to Egypt, and just before Joseph died, he told his family that God had been faithful to them and saved them. He asked that their children and their children would follow God and not stay in Egypt. Sadly, they did stay in Egypt, and the longer they stayed, the further away God seemed. So this picture of Joseph's coat reminds us how God was with him, even when some really bad things happened. And God is with us too. Tomorrow, we are going to find out how they finally left Egypt. See you tomorrow!